Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're heading up the Nile, virtually speaking, to explore Philae Temple. It's now on Agilkia Island near Aswan.
hmm
And this place, it's not just another monument, is it? It feels like. Well, like stepping through thousands of years of history, all in one spot.
Oh, absolutely. It's quite unique in that way. You really see the layers, like, ancient Egypt, the Ptolemaic Greeks, the Romans, even early Christianity, all leaving their mark.
It was mostly about Isis, right?
hmm
The mother of Horus. That was the main focus.
Primarily, yes, it became a massive center for her worship. Her influence was, well, immense in that period.
But the craziest part, maybe, is that the whole thing nearly vanished underwater.
Yeah, the Aswan High Dam situation.
Exactly. And this huge UNESCO effort in the 70s literally moved the entire complex. Just incredible.
It really was an unprecedented rescue. Saved it for all of us, thankfully.
Okay, so let's dig in. To really get a feel for Philae, where do we start? What about the very earliest history?
Well, it's interesting. You might expect some really deep pharaonic roots, given the location, and local priests certainly claimed it was ancient.
But the evidence.
The hard evidence suggests it didn't really become a major site until the Ptolemaic times, maybe around the 3rd century BC. Before that, the oldest definite thing we found is an altar
An altar? To who?
to Amun, dedicated by Pharaoh Taharka from the 25th dynasty. So there was something happening earlier, but maybe not on the grand scale we see later. It's a little clue.
Right, a hint of what's to come. So the big construction, the Temple of Isis we associate with Philae, that really kicks off with the Ptolemies, the Greek rulers after Alexander.
Precisely. That's when things really take off. The Ptolemaic period, starting around 332 BC, they embraced a lot of Egyptian traditions, even though they were Greek.
And Ptolemy II, Philadelphus, he was key.
Yes, he really got the main Temple of Isis construction going. That's when Philae starts becoming the place for Isis worship.
And this dedication to Isis, it was more than just saying this temple is for her, wasn't it? Her story is like built into the walls. I remember reading about the Mamisi.
Ah, yes, the Mamizi, the birth house, super important.
What exactly went on there?
It's essentially a chapel celebrating a divine birth, in this case, Horus. So the walls inside, they're covered in reliefs showing Isis nursing the baby Horus in the marshes. It's all about her role as mother, creator, protector.
Wow. Reinforcing her whole mythology.
Exactly. And interestingly, we do know there was an earlier temple structure built by King Nectanebo II back in the 4th century BC, so just before the Ptolemies. It shows the island already had some religious significance, even if smaller.
Gotcha. So the Ptolemies start this huge project, and then Egypt becomes part of the Roman Empire. Did the Romans just sort of maintain it, or did they add their own layer?
Oh, they definitely added their own layer. They actively continued what the Ptolemies started building and decorating for centuries, well into the 2nd century AD.
So you get this blend.
That's what makes Philae visually so fascinating. You can literally see Egyptian styles, Greek influences from the Ptolemies, and Roman additions all mixed together. It's like a timeline in stone.
Can you give some examples? What did the Romans actually build there?
Sure. Emperor Augustus, for instance, he built a whole new temple area for Isis, sort of expanding on what was there. It had separate halls for Isis and Osiris.
Okay.
But they also added things very typical of Roman cities, a library, a theater, even baths.
Baths. At a temple complex.
Yeah. And later emperors like Tiberius added more decorations. Hadrian built a big gateway, so they were very much involved in shaping the site.
It's just mind-boggling, picturing Romans wandering around these Egyptian temples, adding their own touches.
Yeah.
But did they really understand the deep religious meaning, or was it more political?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Probably a bit of both. The emperors themselves might not have grasped all the complex theology of the hieroglyphs and rituals, but continuing the temple traditions was smart politics. It kept the powerful Egyptian priests happy, kept the local population content. The native priests and the Egyptian elite were likely the ones really driving the specific religious construction policy.
So kind of a collaboration, in a way.
You could see it like that, and you see it in the details, like those two big granite obelisks put up by Euergetes II, or the granite lions that used to guard the entrance pylon.
What exactly is a pylon again?
It's basically the massive monumental gateway you see at the front of many Egyptian temples. Think tall, sloping walls on either side of the entrance.
Got it.
And there's that really elegant gateway near the East Tower. It's got reliefs by Ptolemy II, right next to reliefs added later by Emperor Tiberius. A perfect example of that fusion.
So Philae develops into this amazing architectural mix, but always centered on Isis. How important did it become for her followers?
Hugely important. You could argue it became the most important center for the Isis cult, especially in later Egyptian history, heading into the Roman period.
So people traveled there.
Oh, yes. Pilgrims came from all over Egypt, but also much further, Cyprus, Crete, even as far as Rome itself. They held these elaborate ceremonies reenacting the myths, like Isis resurrecting Osiris, celebrating Horus's birth. People came to ask Isis for help, for blessings, or to give thanks. It was a massive pilgrimage destination.
Imagine the atmosphere during those festivals. What about the inner part of the temple, the really sacred space?
The sanctuary, yes, the house of Isis, that was the heart of it. Inside, there was this granite base, a gift from Ptolemaic, Acrae, and Queen Berenice, where they kept the sacred bark.
The boat.
Yeah, the ceremonial boat that carried the statue of Isis during processions. And nearby, there was a small room with reliefs showing the king interacting directly with Isis, reinforcing that divine connection.
Okay, so we have the official structures, the rituals, but you mentioned something earlier that really caught my attention, the graffiti. Ordinary people leaving marks.
Yes, and it's absolutely fascinating. For a long time, maybe it was overlooked, just seen as scribbles, but now archaeologists see it as this incredible window into the lives of everyday worshipers.
What kind of things did they leave?
All sorts. Simple outlines of their feet, maybe like saying, "I was here on holy ground." Images of gods they liked, their names, dates, little prayers etched right into the stone walls. It gives you a much more human perspective than just the grand royal inscriptions.
Are there any specific ones that really stand out?
There are a few. There's one from a guy named Sasan, a traveler. He wrote something like, "Isis, you are the mistress of the road. Our hearts are entrusted to you upon the way." And he might have drawn a little picture of himself, too. It feels so personal.
Wow, like an ancient travel prayer.
Exactly. And then there's one from Nesmeti, who was the banker of Isis, quite an important job. His inscription basically says, his name will last forever, but anyone who erases this, their name will be erased forever.
Huh. A bit of ancient insurance, perhaps.
Maybe. A bit of confidence and maybe a warning. It just brings these individuals to life, you know?
And you're saying archaeologists are now really studying this stuff seriously, with modern tech?
Oh, absolutely. It's a big shift. Projects like the Philae Temple Graffiti project use things like photogrammetry, taking lots of photos to create 3D models, and laser scanners to record every little mark.
So they can analyze it all?
In incredible detail. They're learning so much about pilgrimage routes, personal piety, what gods were popular with ordinary folk. They even find drawings, people, animals like falcons for Horus, and even game boards, maybe scratched by priests or guards with time on their hands.
Game boards. That's amazing.
Isn't it? And interestingly, a lot of this graffiti is found outside the inner areas, like the Memisi. It's just maybe not everyone was allowed deep into the temple's holiest parts.
Makes sense. So Philae is thriving for centuries. People are coming, leaving their marks. But things change. Empires shift. When did the worship of the old gods start to fade there?
Philae has this really significant claim to fame. It was pretty much the last holdout, one of the very last ancient Egyptian temples where the old ways continued.
Really? How late did it go on?
We have the last known hieroglyphic inscription dated precisely to 394 AD. It's called the Graffito of Esmetacom.
394 AD. That's quite late.
It is. It was carved by a priest, Nesmetarachem, after the Roman Emperor Theodosius. I had officially ordered pagan temples within the empire to close, but Philae was just on the edge, maybe technically outside direct Roman control at that exact moment, so it hung on.
And what does that last inscription say? Does it feel like an ending?
Well, the hieroglyphs themselves are quite traditional, but there's also text in Demotic. That's the more everyday script. And that part expresses this hope that the inscription will last forever. And it mentions the god Mandulus, who was actually a Nubian deity worshipped alongside Isis there, and the birthday of Osiris festival. But it's thought that by this time, very few people could actually read the complex hieroglyphs anymore. It signals that cultural shift.
The writing was literally on the wall then. And eventually Christianity took over.
Yes. In the 6th century AD, the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I ordered all remaining pagan temples closed for good, and Philae was converted into a Christian church. That was the definitive end of its ancient religious role.
And I imagine that conversion wasn't exactly delicate.
No, sadly not. As Christianity took hold, there was deliberate destruction. Many carvings, especially of Isis on the main pylon, were hacked away or defaced. It's attributed to early Christians, sometimes called iconoclasts, who were against religious images.
You can actually see the damage today.
Oh, yes. But you also see the signs of the new faith. Crosses were carved into the stone in places, marking spots used for Christian worship. Then later, after the Arab conquest in 641 AD, there was some further damage or repurposing, though thankfully much of the temple structure itself survived because it was just so historically significant.
It's such a dramatic story. Rise, peak, transformation, even survival through destruction. But then came the water.
Right. Fast forward to the 20th century. First, the Aswan Low Dam, finished in 1902, started causing seasonal flooding. That was bad enough.
But the High Dam was the real threat.
Exactly. The Aswan High Dam, built in the 1960s, created Lake Nasser, and Philae Island was going to be completely, permanently submerged, lost forever.
Which led to that amazing rescue operation we mentioned earlier, the UNESCO campaign.
Yes, the Nubia campaign, launched in 1960. It was this huge international collaboration to save not just Philae, but over 20 other major sites threatened by the rising waters. Philae's relocation was really the jewel in the crown of that whole project.
Between 1974 and 1979, right?
That's right. It took years.
I just can't wrap my head around moving an entire temple complex. How did they even do it?
Meticulously. They basically built a temporary dam around Philae to pump the water out. Then, engineers dismantled everything, stone by stone. We're talking around 40,000 individual blocks.
40,000?
Each one carefully numbered and cataloged. Then they were shipped over to the nearby Agilkia Island, which had been landscaped to mimic the shape and height of the original Philae. And then, like the world's biggest, most important jigsaw puzzle, they put it all back together.
Just staggering. And that's why we can visit it today.
Exactly. It ensured its survival, and its status now as a UNESCO World Heritage Site reflects how important that rescue and the site itself really are.
So for someone visiting today, standing on Agilkia Island, looking at this rebuilt marvel, what are the absolute must-see parts?
Okay. Definitely the first pylon, that massive entrance gate. Even with the damage to the reliefs, it's incredibly imposing. You can still make out Isis, Osiris, Horus.
And the birth house?
The birth house, the Mamizi, yes. With those detailed reliefs from Ptolemy VI Philometor showing Horus's birth. Really beautiful. Then behind the main hypostyle hall, there's a series of 10 smaller rooms.
10 rooms.
Yeah, dedicated to the Osiris myth. You see scenes of Isis nursing Horus, Isis protecting Osiris's body. Very powerful imagery. And of course, the central sanctuary, the Holy of Holies, where the bark would have been kept. Look for depictions of Isis with Satis and Anukis, local goddesses from the Aswan area.
What about other structures? It wasn't just the main Isis temple, was it?
No, there's more to explore. Nectanebo's kiosk is this lovely, elegant pavilion near the water's edge from the early days. There's a temple of Hathor, goddess of love, music, joy, which Augustus renovated. Trajan's kiosk is probably the most famous image of Philae, that beautiful open structure, and the Gate of Hadrian, built for his visit around 130 AD.
It's a whole complex. And didn't one of the obelisks from Philae play a role in deciphering hieroglyphs?
It did. One of the granite obelisks found in 1815 had inscriptions in both Greek and hieroglyphs, including royal names like Ptolemy and Cleopatra. That bilingual text was crucial, alongside the Rosetta Stone, in helping scholars finally crack the hieroglyphic code.
Where's that obelisk now?
It ended up in England at Kingston Lacy, a direct link from Philae to unlocking the secrets of ancient Egypt. And just the engineering of raising those obelisks back then, it was pretty impressive stuff.
So looking back at everything Philae represents, how should we think about its cultural significance today?
Well, it really feels like the last stand of ancient Egyptian religious culture in many ways, doesn't it? Kept alive by dedicated priests and patrons, even as the world changed around it.
A refuge.
A refuge, exactly. And of course, its sheer beauty made it famous. Agatha Christie using it in Death on the Nile certainly helped cement its image in the popular mind. But the visible layers, the defaced images next to Christian crosses, they tell that powerful story of shifting civilizations, changing faiths.
A visual record of transformation.
Precisely. And on a lighter note, you mentioned visitors. Today, the island is absolutely full of feral cats, hundreds of them. It feels like a funny, maybe fitting echo of how revered cats were in ancient Egypt.
A little throwback. It really has been an unbelievable journey for this temple, hasn't it? Thousands of years, multiple empires near destruction, and then this incredible rescue.
It truly has. Philae stands as this amazing testament, really, to ancient beliefs, to the interactions between Egypt, Greece, and Rome, to the rise of Christianity, and ultimately to what people can achieve when they decide to protect our shared history.
So maybe the thought to leave everyone with is, Think about how this single place holds so many stories, so much change. It really makes you consider the ebb and flow of civilizations and how these sacred places endure, adapt, and continue to speak to us across the centuries. Perhaps it sparks curiosity to find other places where history overlaps like this.
A perfect place to reflect on that.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.